Alright, so, take a look at this, right? Look at this. We got Shrek. Got Shrek signs. We got Shrek signs. We got Shrek signs. Yes. We got Shrek signs. And then you have a double. You have a double. Shrek is taking a picture of also Shrek in the camera. Keep up with the camera roll. Aurora. Come on. Alright. Where is he? Come on. You know where I am. I don't know if I got the playback right, but that image there is of a finished basement. Right, this basement was not originally finished to this house. This was styled later. Let me just get the playback up. Come on, Billy. And I'm just going to leave this up for reference point, right? With this right here. Okay. So this basement was finished after the original making of the sub. Right. At least we didn't have the place done. This is what I can presume. These basements don't exist under each of these homes here. Yet what you have there is at least a 90% interpretation of exactly the way this area looks. They got the door in the wrong side. Maybe they could have done a better job. They put their door here, when my door's here. Fix that up. What's that supposed to mean? A little bit too far on the right? Get the red zone? We're in the red zone? No loading or unloading in the red zone? Man, maybe I decide to unload and unload whoever the fuck I want. So I have Farrell Maguire here with this weird ass reference point. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable to data breaches. Not the thing to be advertising. My argument is that the same people doing the data breaching and the paranoiding are actually the people selling the products. And a lot of the times in ways, for sure. So, oh, but theirs is called Aura. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable to data breach. So, they sell all these VPN softwares and data breach softwares, and I'm just gonna say, all I have to remind you guys is, unless it's routed through Panama, it doesn't do anything. You need, right, you need a VPN if you honestly hope for it to do anything, but now the moment they see that you are using that VPN, specifically in Panama, you think they don't start watching your ass more? but and then that you know to do the one in Panama. So let's see. And so now this is NordVPN trying to make it look that they are VPNs in Panama and through Panama. No, they are selling VPNs for Panama. That's not the same as VPNs routed through Panama. Surfshark is based in Panama, provides a secure and reliable service with a no-legs policy and support for streaming platforms. Private internet access, PIA. Privacy standard serves in Panama, offers a unique chameleon protocol for traffic obfuscation. It's optimized servers in Panama City for fast speeds and a 99.99% uptime guarantee. Pure VPN. So, even still, they all state that they have servers in Panama. Maybe you have to make sure that you're geolocated to those while it is that you're using the service. But indeed, if you're not using a VPN that's routed through Panama, there are laws currently, right, essentially undermining everybody else's their cybersecurity rules. We're allowed to go and pilfer through metadata and individuals' data, right, thanks to the FISA. Thanks to the 1981 Ronald Reagan executive order. Thanks to 2001 Patriot Act. Thanks to 2004's updates to the 81 Reagan executive order. The 2004... that was 2004, yeah. And the 2008 updates to FISA. And so essentially is it that the government is already kind of created enough loopholes to monitoring your data either through proxies external to we in the country, or monitoring your data from maybe even little bugs and backdoors that they put into networks like NordVPN that are, whenever it's the most pushed one to you, it's a bait. It's bait. Now you're looking like you're somebody who feels that they do need to protect their privacy and their security. They go, why is that person going to protect their privacy and security? Oh, he bought NordVPN, they're not protected at all, but now at least we know they think they have something to hide. So don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. If you do get a VPN, every time those NordVPN things come up and whatnot, remember that the only VPNs that really do anything for you for sure are ones routed through Panama. We ourselves, we're doing a privacy fight on this for shit. This Tor onion browsing is... I always stayed locked on the Windows kernel. I'm just... fuck off, right? It's like literally you and your families burn in hell for every piece of privacy you strip away from your American citizens, you treasonous scoundrels. But you know, it's cool. I got I get this amazing little pedestal to sing this song from when I do have to perceive it, and so I do. I never started with the onion bullshit. I didn't start with that. It was interesting and intriguing. It was a great fight to fight. It was. But I didn't want to be closer to the Silk Road. I didn't want to be closer to human trafficking. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see that. So, right, it's just essentially you get into the gray web, at least, right, with the Tor browsing stuff. Just a few clicks away from the dark web. I always knew how to get to the gray web from these more normal browsers. And what was cool about them is that these normal browsers like Google and Chrome and what not, although there's like business interests and conflicts of interest there for like they'll try and sever your access to downloading IP in certain places and areas, and they'll like, so I'm trying to find a free MP3 downloading service, a direct downloading service, and these are things that are just locked down. So then I'm like, all right, I will just use Spotify and SoundCloud to make available to me all the music of any artist that I want here on the desktop app. And I can just go ahead and generate an AI tool that's going to copy and listen to all that, right? And then it's going to metadata analyze the transcript. It's going to determine what, in fact, the lyrics are there. It's going to look up the lyrics on lyricsgenius.com or another lyrics affiliated and lyrics X, right? They lock down even the lyrics from being output, some of these artists and some of their labels. Um, And it sure is funny too, because like the shit just gets more and more incoherent as the time goes on for the great bulk of music that's output. So it's just like, oh, I mean, what? You just don't even want the narrative of context that's actually coherent and reviewable to breach the boundaries. You just want it to sound like a bunch of sounds that sound like words and sentences. But yeah, it's gonna. And so now it's whatever the listener thinks they're hearing. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but either way, I found that things in like the lockdowns that you do see on Google Chrome, for example, are not bad. They keep you away. They keep you away from the worst shit if you happen to be kind of diving through. But then it's like they keep these purposefully cancerous places around that has legal content and stuff, but it's all going to have some levels of suggestion to uh, right insecurity on the user's standpoint. So they'll like literally leave these things around. And the insinuation is that although it's not illegal, it could get you blackmailed. It could get all sorts of shit. And so they leave these bait stations around. And if you don't use a VPN or anything, and you're already aware of the whole VPN, right now they could use that to start driving you crazy if they wanted. They don't have a suggestion paradigm. They can use dead internet theory to start generating a bunch of bullshit automated outputs that make it sound like it's a bunch of people surrounding you on something. Um, and this is actually happening for me. I got a bunch of ag right again. Right. Let me learn about you. Canada. But let's see videos again. I want to see that thumbnail. That's funny. There we go. I have very real people surrounding me. So either way, they let me know they're not the biggest threat after a bunch of people wanted to make me think that they could have been. I myself, the Psychopomp Bodhisattva, little miracle baby I happen to be, get to reference that this is a direct reference and a direct failure of my government's NSA resources. And what does it tell you? It tells you that the NSA isn't there to protect you. The NSA is there to try and monitor you and attempt to take things from you and then suggest blackmail events later. And I just determined that if this was really going to happen to me, it's not the only thing that's happening to me, but if this is really going to happen to me, I'm going to use it as a political outreach device. And so I've been very clear on the treason that's been happening in the nation and for decades here, and thanks to both parties. And I'm trying to take it a little bit, trying to keep it chill and whatnot. I've been outputting and presuming that at least all the people that do physically surround me would like get me paid up or something, because like my career's been affected and stuff. But regardless, the interpretation is no, I don't. I can cope with ideas and considerations like this. It's just a finished basement, Mike. Maybe it's a finished basement of the 90s. That was a popular look. I'm like, what's the chances of that space being in fact the exact same space? Yes, hi Shrek. So before doing that, I'll cursor over here. The exact same space of the wall. Same distance in the front. Same corner. Now, you could take something that's of a very popular kind of design, right? Something you might see more frequently. But this is literally definitely a finished basement. And you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see that stairwell coming down like that behind the wall in that regard. There's no windows down in it. It's literally a rendition of my area down here. Why is this damning evidence in some regards? Well, because, and I remember I do a lot of testimonialization here in my 2,000 plus video archive. Thank you, ABC. I mean Alphabet. Um, and so, but it's damning because I have 9 subscribers. The one real one that exists is my brother. I have videos here that almost never get reviewed, but in fact some do. Most all of them appear to be shadowed via Alphabet. But I happen to know a great deal of people surround me on the stuff that I do and think and say, and I don't mind that so much. It's just I would have expected more pay. But I've kind of gone in quite deep. I've kind of gone in quite fucking deep. There's been psychological torture. There's been a lot of horrible shit. But no, guys, that's a picture. It's a rendition of my basement. No, I don't want this guy to get hurt or anything. But this guy might know what they're referencing. Farrell Maguire over in Canada, and they are dropping this calling card, and it's out of bounds, so they know I like she says. So I don't look at this guy as a bad guy, right? It's just that this is a reference point to a 7 months ago reference point to already the level of knowledge and documentation that was occurring, right? And I've been psychologically tortured. I've been kept away from work here in the oligarchy of the greater Rochester, New York area. I've attempted to get work in multiple portions of my sector. I've been forced to continuously contrive testimony to more than one psychological professional. The psychological professionals stop my They stop my ability to create additional testimony and try to claim that my having all of this money taken away from me and my boyfriend leaving me on purpose to hurt me, um, because then when it wasn't hurting me enough, then my parents start psychologically torturing me in my home. And that was a part of the plan, and nobody comes up and deals with that. Um, and so I'm already referencing the NSA, you see. I'm referencing the NSA over 7 months ago. I'm pleased with the idea. Well, everybody is already surrounding me to this horribly subversive paradigm of my life. I don't fucking deserve this. I have hailed on to some fucking level of divine intervention here. And I'm here to remind you guys that you burn in fucking hell if you do not fucking fix this for me. Although I do love you. That wasn't even so much to like Drew and my parents and shit. That's more to like every surrounding figure here. So I have to just not get too angry about it. Remember that I would like to forgive. That I've logically deduced that forgiveness is less agonizing for me. But now I need to be made available with the resources to do so. Which is $50,000 annually, as I've been stating for some months now. And people will surround and cycle my car faster and faster when I should be outputting the fact that I'm seeing reference in real time referenced activities and behaviors surrounding the stuff that I'm saying to a hot camera, hot microphone issue. And all I gotta say is, I mean, I have a lot more to say on it. All of you guys burn in hell all the same. Um, Not that I want to say it too often anymore, but every time I bring it all back up, I just have to state this. Um, I just have to state this. These people would rather cycle me and surround my car, making an anxiolytic output, and essentially try to give me a heart attack with the fact that my life has been surveilled, my privacy has been stolen from me for the last 2 years. They're all mostly white people. They'll drive over to urban areas like Rochester, New York. And instead of donating, they'll try and give me a heart attack. So, really all I have to assert there, right? Again, I don't deserve any of that. I'm literally so wonderful. I get reminded every day that I'm touched by God and the Holy Spirit. So I should understand that everybody who has already partaken in it and has failed to produce any level of income, everyone, neighbors, direct, right, neighborhoods surrounding, organizations, every single fucking one of you burn in hell on this if this does not work out. Families, pets. I don't want to take on that interpretation too much. You know, I should have already self-realized as the president of the United States. I have already self-realized that to the capability of my verbal outputs and contextualization, all of the offerings, all of the education that I have offered here in my time during said surveillance issue has been very well met and well received. I have to objectively deal with the fact, though, that Wegmans Corporation determined to make this most a lot more psychologically damaging and on purpose, as did the Eastman Dental Clinic of the U of R Hospital here in University of Rochester. That was back on December 17th, 2024. That was Dr. Irrefutable. And so, if there is a big old revolution coming, or anything like that, I'm not going to be as angry at U of R because they're a hospital. They shouldn't do that. I can create advocacy against what they did to me there. Wegmans is something that I want to just demolish. So, that's something I want to do. That's something I want to do. Why do you want to demolish Wegmans? Put in my application for tens of doctor office positions. Entry level, front desk shit, medical billing shit, stuff I have years of experience in. Wasn't looking to get a manager position or anything else up to that level. I'm looking for an entry level role. And all of these do not respond back, and that doesn't make sense. So I just go in, I'm like, alright, maybe it's that everybody in a higher level or echelons does not want me to go into an entry-level position. Maybe they want me to feel or pretend like I'm some kind of tiny little underling. But either way, I changed my tune, and I'm like, fine. I'm willing to work a sub-shop role or a cashier position at Wegmans. I go to them because they had determined to subvert me with somebody on the same day, December 17th, 2024. At store 660 here in Fairport, New York, 14450. And around 9 p.m. GMT minus 5, a few minutes before 9 p.m. GMT minus 5 on December 17th, 2024, did they have an individual and a representative at their location that was set to appear as an actor behind the counter and put on a purposefully uncanny display of something that was designed to feel like the uncanniness of an actor. The actor looked like Bowen Yang, and I have refused to output that it is in fact Bowen Yang because I haven't seen their driver's license. But I could state that they looked like Bowen Yang of Saturday Night Live, and that they were giving a very similar performance to some of the stuff that I have seen in my periphery of that show. And that wasn't what did it, but that was uncanny enough for me to start screaming at the top of my lungs, and for hours here on in just many of the worst moments of my life. Also through which I did not deserve it, and if you guys die on it, good. So essentially, it's that happens, right? And I'm like, okay, well maybe it's not as threatening as it might be designed to appear. I may have been put through some of the most subversive, horrible, substantial pain ever, and on purpose, and without any level of antibiotic reprieve, and for hours after the tooth that was extracted from me was leaving me in pain 3 times worse than what I walked into the clinic with, and I informed Dr. Irrefutable of this, I'd informed the nurse's aide this. Eastman Dental Clinic did not fucking care. So I secure documentation for the proof of the service. I have that evidence on me still. They were not going to print out a document for the routine nature of the service. So I made them write me up one. So essentially, after all that, I say some months later, February, it's 2 months after that psychological torture, and they purposefully withhold antibiotics from me to then send me to a clinician, right, a urgent care facility later in the night after the dental service, to then let me know and suggest a threat to me that I would not be receiving antibiotic medication again
or that I might not receive or have access to being able to secure antibiotic medication to save my life from what could be an infected brainstem if we don't get the abscess that the dentist had already imaged and put in front of me, and had I asked them as it pertained to antibiotic medication, what am I getting? And they say nothing. They just let it take care of itself. And so I go to this nurse later in the day, and they state that can be a fucking brainstem infection and kill you. And I'm like, I know, or it could be brain damage, right? I already learned about all this. I asked them for antibiotics. They said they're just going to let it take care of themselves. So either way, I'm forcing the issue. And the woman is set and prescripted to preamble to me language and dialogue that sounds as if she's not going to enable my access to antibiotic medication to save my life. And she preambles and circles through this 3 times to have me, the individual, presume that the answer upcoming is a no. But then eventually she says yes, so I'm like, oh, that's so nice, but I'm not afraid of that bullshit. I am now legitimately very, 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 very invested into the knowledge that Nadia, the woman who was there at the U of R, at that U of R urgent care clinic, over by Eastman, or it's not Eastman, it's over by Eastview Mall, right off of Route 96 here, and 250 in the 14450 area. And also on December 17th, a few hours before 9 p.m., right, like an hour before 9 p.m., so like 8 p.m. around GMT minus 5. And so I would be aware that Nadia is involved on it. I would be aware that Store 660 in Wegmans is involved on it. I would be aware that a great deal of the people who did not return my application is involved on it. And so I don't have an ability to move forward, or really, right? I'm still going to keep attempting to secure work, but I'm not going to be lowering myself to the idea of retail anymore, because Wegmans simply put that I could run into the same issue in retail as anywhere else, right? I'm like, you're right. Right, but what showcases and distributes the better thing? Do I get more retail applications out and continue to prove that without any criminal record on my part here, and through no amount of actual, right, this is a circumstance where it is that no due process has been enabled. I have had the Monroe County police officers here twice. I didn't call them. My parents called them to psychologically torture me. And so I have the knowledge that the Monroe County Police Department haven't done fuck all about it. And so I'm like, all right, maybe it's like a circumstance where people are all being like death threatened or something. And maybe they're all getting threats and they're feeling afraid and they don't want to put their families at risk or something. So I presume this for a bit, and I'm like, well, maybe everyone's just threatened and they feel like they're going to create political issues for themselves if they hire me or something. So I'm like, okay, let's go find auxiliary under-the-table methods of getting us donated to. Getting me directly donated to, because it's my finances that have been failed here. And the people around me, right, same folks, same area, same officers that failed to handshake the fact that there's a criminal circumstance going on over here against me, and something that they fucking know goddamn well better that is happening, but are failing to handshake, failing to broker me with any level of interest, and I've been nothing but fucking supportive for police. And so I deal with this, and I deal with the fact that now the officer is going to say something that suggests that if it is a surveillance issue, that it's not illegal. When my mother should be recording tens of dialogues against my knowledge here, and I was kind of subverted, and my boyfriend left me on purpose to leave me with no money on purpose and all, right? So yeah, again, final output is, like, anybody who is anybody who has actually had to cope with this, and I've gone in this much greater context before, of course would honestly wish and pray that if nothing is going to be done, that these people all burn in hell. I still love them, but Yahweh is going to ensure that they all burn in hell. If this does not get better for me. I'm not going to kill them or anything like that. That's nothing I'm premeditating. But as any trapped and tortured animal would do, maybe they do. Or did. But that's nothing in my nature. Essentially, I have determined that what I have to cope with here is a sovereign level threat against my ability to survive here and my character. And I will have sovereign level deterrence for it. I'm not going to get too angry about this moment. It's fun to know that everybody who's everybody gets to hear everything that I say and do. Which kind of proves the amazing magic of everything that it is that I am, and goes to further and further bolster and showcase that people burn in hell on it if this does not get fixed for me via Homo sapiens here in physical mundus as it pertains to the reality that I started with and am still coping through after psychological torture that has been leveraged against me, and a disability to find work has been leveraged against me. And on a political basis, trying to create some level of example, trying to martyr me, I will see them martyred the fuck back. Nadia's cool. I liked Nadia. She still gave me the antibiotics that saved my life. The Eastman Dental Clinic folks took out a tooth that was creating an abscess, and since that has gotten better, my parents have paid for all of the dental work that I need. Oh, isn't today the day for that? Or is it the 26th? Either way, I need to get that done. I think I'm just trying to hold up on that for them. I have tinnitus now. I've made use of it. That's from all the screaming. It could have given me a heart attack. It could have set me up for a heart attack later down the line. It could give me an aneurysm. Could go all this shit. I don't think that's going to happen to me. But they set me up to not be in as good of a situation. Aged me pretty not great. And the interpretation is, if this doesn't get better for me, everyone burns in hell on it. And that's what you offer when you don't want to just murder people outright in the street. Bystanders, anyways. What I usually say to make myself feel better about this is that 9mm rounds can be purchased from all places that sell gun ammunition without the need for a firearm license. You can be a convicted criminal. You can be a felon. You can be diagnosed with schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress. You can be a known killer who has gone on, right, been released from prison, and you can go over and you can go buy a bunch of 9mm rounds, and then, right, you can't get a gun, but it's like, that's fine. Right? It's as I always state, and this is a part of my nice little narrative here. That's how it makes me feel better, it really does. These bracket clips, which are very cheap, can be affixated to any piece of wood that then has a 9mm round blocked into it, and set a print, right, just rip something out, and then release this fire, and that will most certainly fire off that 9mm round, so long as it's been properly mounted. You got yourself a single fire weapon. And what I'll state is that if I move on up to a role like the presidency of the United States, then I state that that's DARPA, and that's an issue, and you have to be aware of it. And what are you doing about gun rights? If you think that's a fucking issue, what are you doing about gun rights then? What are you doing about ammunition regulation? Okay. And if it gets worse, then that's going to be mechanisms that I guess that I could use, and that I can continue to interpret and help everyone else around me know to use. I feel the hardware stores already getting the batches of 9mm ready, you guys. So, generally, yeah, I that's the level of deterrent threat that I have to the survival, and I'm like a part of God, guys. I gotta do what I gotta do. I tried to get work. I think I'm gonna make some more tries. We'll see how it goes. Nothing I want to be saying or doing. It's just this is how I don't die. I'm not dying on it, right? You have to have some place where you know you have some very solid power when you've actually been fucked this bad. So, no, I apologize for any belligerent noises and stuff like this. My family tortured me. And nobody around me who already gave me such knowledge that they were aware of me and supposedly supported me, nobody around me made that torture stop. None other than the people doing the torturing. And then they made things better, and that was nice. But what I have to assert again is that there's a surveillance state issue here. It's been mitigated since the 1975 Church Committee under Ford, when it was that the CIA heads were being called out for their treasonous behavior, absolutely treasonous behavior, against the knowledge of the President of the United States, POTUS. Essentially that the CIA had gone rogue a bit and started surveilling people in the executive branch, surveilling people in Congress, surveilling people, just random citizens, surveilling political dissidents that were going to be problematic for the oligarchs who were better connected to the CIA. But then, no later than 3 years after 1978, is it that they already put in FISA as a full plan to mitigate how it is that we had created these optics and this huge, strong sense of retribution amongst us and the civilian populace here in the United States. But still, they would use the narrative of foreign surveillance as a means to eventually trickle in, once again, internal surveillance. Essentially, the big brother police state, the big brother surveillance state, less police state, more surveillance state. At least that's how it is that I'm experiencing it here. And so it gets further dug in by Reagan in 81 in his executive action, his executive order, that triggers what we build up in FISA in 78. So that then by 2001 and the September 11th attacks, which are likely proxy attacks that we helped initiate via our Saudi interests, we, the United States government, had a hand in the 9/11 attacks. And that's irrefutable. After this is done as a false flag operation to bring everybody in the nation into some level of fear and also huge grandiosity as it pertains to national identity and all sorts of shit, you essentially see that they use this to establish a surveillance state over time out of the fear and paranoia people are already in, and this after already putting people in terrible fear and paranoia against their local law enforcement resources just as well as their state level law enforcement resources. And so I've been careful to tread this line, and I'm thinking it's like, yeah, I really don't want to think I'm still pro cop. I'm not. I don't want to defund the police. I was literally putting my foot down, saying I don't want that. Why have I not seen more support in terms of trying to bring to justice the crimes that have been leveraged against me and so systemically? I don't know. But that is something I've experienced here. I'm still saying don't defund the police. Um, and essentially, after all of that, right, in 2001, we've already been made to be afraid of our police and forces if you happen to be like a weed user, being black in general, but you already felt that fear, so maybe it was just a mechanism to make us whites feel something similar, right? Maybe. And now we can truly empathize, at least on that. And plenty of other stuff we can empathize. I'm just not trying to say that the black struggle is like ever going to be equivalent to the white struggle. The white struggle is probably a little bit less hard than the black struggle. I'm not saying the white struggle isn't hard though. I think a lot of black people will be there to say that too. I'm like, thank you, thank you. Your no, black caucuses. It is your struggle that is the most severe. And they're like, oh no, white caucuses. They undermine the struggles that occur over in you. And I'm like, oh, I love you guys. Right? But either way, it's been hell in a handbasket. I feel like I got a bunch of eggs in it now that I could start chucking at people. That's funny. Maybe I start egging people. It's not in my nature. It's not in my nature. Either way, that's 2001. We do the Patriot Act. We just go full on, and now we can like extradite people over to black sites without any court order or anything. And then there's a secret court that isn't even reviewed by any peers or anybody that can do anything in regards to it. Um, I have folks getting tortured every day, like Abu Zubaydah, who didn't do anything, and they're trying to get him to be to falsely accept the blame for planning and doing 9/11 when the people who are operating this operation know goddamn well it's the American government that did it, and they're just trying to get this person to they're trying to like fuck with this guy's brain to scapegoat him by torturing him physically, mentally, sexually. Um and so one thing that I will always state here is that Abu Zubaydah is like a Christ to me. And Abu Zubaydah is the person that we actually point a finger to and say, that's fucking a motherfucking, fucking crime against fucking humanity. We had people responsible doing this fucking biting down on cyanide in the cold little prison cells that they were going to be tried from. Either way, I find that there are people who believe in God. I know I'm not angry at people who don't, but then there are people that don't. And anybody who did anything that they did to Abu Zubaydah probably doesn't believe in God. I should wonder, though. It's the saddest, most horrible work to torture somebody all day in and day out, know about it, have to walk that home and remember that that's what happens in life, and that you're involved in that crowd, and now somebody can go and extradite you or any of your family members and do the same thing to them. And I think about that, and I'm like, that's nothing I want for them. It must be like a prison system in the CIA for the folks that have to do this black site shit. I've talked about it, and I'm just like, oh my fucking god, and it's blood in, blood out. It's like, yep, it's some gangland shit. It's some fucking gangland shit. And so no, I don't want to just go ahead and create retribution for CIA operatives and folks working these black sites and because then they would never feel capable of coming through and saying, yep, this is all the horrible shit that we're doing. Yep, this horrible shit, this horrible shit, this horrible shit, this horrible shit. Please protect me. This horrible shit, this horrible shit. And I'm like, yes, we got you protected. Anybody else who would like to come forward and corroborate the horrible shit that person A has been so brave to come forward and talk about, we will get you protected too. We need to historicize what is done in our black sites. We need to historicize what is done in our surveillance state. We need to historicize. I need people that are not afraid to speak the truth. You will find that God looks back on you once more. I need this. I spiritually need this. I'm going to go back into some cool shit. I don't know if we're learning more about quantum mechanics today. I don't know if we're going to be learning more about philosophy, syncretism and faith, how the good, the bad, and good sides of it. We're popping into the Vedics right now while we learn about quantum mechanics a bit. And that's fun. That's fun. Gave a solid amount of reprieve, helping the nation understand as to how it is that we can look and review the Iran strikes. And then actually that this might create opportunities for Iran down the line that's actually very beneficial to their legitimization as a sovereignty. Meanwhile, North Korea comes out and backs Iran up. And I'm like, that's cool. And what do they back them up on the basis of? That there's sovereignty and they shouldn't be being bullied by bigger ones. And I'm like, excellent. That sounds like exactly a kind of vibe that you feel in North Korea. Of course you'd feel that way. That's definitely something that I would like to stop afflicting y'all with too. It's very bizarre, this Cold War NATO bullshit. And they were putting us at war with each other, and they intended to put me at war with every loving like ideal around me here, and I still choose that I really don't want to be at war with them. They would put you into psychological trauma to make you conceive that everything loving and cute and wonderful here is a distasteful nightmare to everyone else who should not have access to the benefits and the leisures that we have, the qualities of life that we can obtain here, and the fact that there are not nukes, or not nukes, but bombs, right, and missiles hailing in our interior cities like you see folks in Israel having to cope with now after it is that their sovereign leader chooses to bait them all and just use them as bait for pissing off all of the Arab nations around them as they can. But hey, we got Syria. And now we're protecting Syria from Israel. I hope, but I think we are. So, either way, Iran might be able to find themselves on a track to nuclear power that's more pacifistic. and one that's going to be potentially ordained under the Russian sovereignty. And so thusly it'll be going on Russia's track. I wouldn't have an issue with them going on NATO's track. Wouldn't that make more sense for us? Thoughts to be considered. Either way, we did not bomb their actual enriched uranium. They still got all that. So the most valuable resource that it is that they already invested all their time and energy into, right, is something they have stockpiled. That's good. We didn't hit them where it really hurt. Why? Because that enriched uranium is one of the things that we don't want to be put out of the system. That's Iran's enriched uranium. And Iran has done such a good job hiding it that it remains Iran's enriched uranium. And so, since they still got all of it, and now really all they need to do to become that nuclear power that they're looking to be is get those fissile materials, right, situated and capable of an implosive state, right, where it creates that chain reaction. Or maybe you want to go and make it into plutonium, and right, maybe you want to do power facilities with it. That's an option too. But indeed, North Korea has got some very solid missiles now. They're looking to sell them over to Iran. Okay. And Iran can certainly use missiles because they intend to continuously bombard Israel for the fact that we, right, Israel and U.S. as allies, have been bombarding Iran. And so, being that North Korea already has solid fuel as a state figured out, and already has rockets capable of using that solid fuel. And Iran has enriched uranium. Really, is really just a few more parses here that need to be done before both Iran and North Korea can get their way onto nukes. So really, it's a match made in heaven. Does it have the same mass after you burn all of its energy away from it? Do we kneel in prayer? Let's have mass. No, I don't believe that North Korea or Iran getting nukes leads to nuclear war. It leads to a lot more people taking North Korea and Iran seriously. That's not necessarily the worst thing. If we actually cared, we would have been doing a lot more to stabilize areas like North Korea and helping their governments to legitimize themselves, while we also create optic and positive pressure towards removing their people away from purposeful serfdom and government surveillance and everything. That's why we didn't like it. But then, we don't like government surveillance, we don't like black hands, we don't like these things. And what are we doing the whole fucking time? Since before 1975, and then we even have a big committee about it. And we shame the people, right? But then 3 years later, only 3 years later, we're already setting up paradigms to eventually mitigate and devolve back into not only the surveillance state that the CIA was creating for some Americans, but a fully automated one that was going to be built upon the server stacks of our nation and the NSA, right? But also our internet. And the freer internet as a whole. And we make these points against North Korea, right? No surveillance state, no strong-handed stuff, none of this. And yes, theirs does look a bit more like a Gestapo, guys. But We don't have a fucking. We don't have a leg to stand on. Our sovereignty does this shit. To us. So, no. Of course, North Korea is going to be pissed. They don't treat their folks right, or at least they didn't from what all the documentaries that we were seeing around the late aughts, early 2010s. It did not look great. The fear as it surrounded their leader was terrifying. People crying and dancing in place because they don't know what else to do. They know they're on camera. They know they're up front. They know the great leader sees them, and if they do anything to fuck up, that this is now the most dangerous position they've ever been in. It's kind of like when you're just a random civilian and you get pulled over by a cop and it's still like marijuana is still illegal and you have a little bit on you, and at that point is that the single greatest threat and endangerment to your life that you've ever experienced, and you will forever remember this every single fucking time it happened. And so it's kind of like the North Koreans would go and be on camera to be reviewed by the Gestapo there and be reviewed by the leader. And it's terrifying for them because they know that this is potentially the close. This might be them. They might do something wrong here that gets them put to death. Just a few days later, maybe it sends them in the camps if they don't do it right. So they just cry and dance in place, and they're just so afraid, and then they dip. That's the way that seems to be the way that less people die thereafter. And I look at people as gods, so it's like not great. So I kind of go through it, and I think in regards to it, I perceive it, that kind of stuff. It's not quite to the level of that here, of course. But I should wonder about some of the states that I was put in down here when I was being, referred against when I'm just verbalizing my struggle. And there's nothing else I could do but verbalize on my struggle down here, and people are constantly tipping and pattering immediately above me here, and it eventually gets so bad. I get so angry because I've run out of nicotine, I run out of weed because my boyfriend left me with no money on purpose, and my parents are purposefully not being forthcoming with any amount of financials, like they were just going to let my bank account fizzle out. So I went to Chase and I just had them print out every single record of my joint account with my mother and then my account. So that then that's at least something that I have, and that I have representatives of Chase being informed as to what was happening there. If that's a necessity, it's fine for me for now. I have brokered all of my testimony to one Hannah Sharkey of the mental health clinics in Rochester, New York, under Rochester Regional. It is good to know that I have my testimonies supported in a few different places. I have the Monroe County Cops being made aware of the online subversion I was seeing, like this. And I would like to reiterate to all Monroe County cops that this is an issue that I've been seeing. But thank you for your service. My arguments again are, guys, my career's been affected here, $50,000 annually, chop chop. Then we could get to work. You know what? Good solid portion of me kind of realized that I'm kind of like a God-selected president of the United States. So, I've been staying engaged with stuff. I've actually been creating and mitigating things to Donald Trump. I've just been helping to see the larger big picture of everything I know in foreign domestic politics and right everything. And I can essentially I've been doing him some good. So, and you do shit like that when people surround you and stuff like this too. It's just like, man, it's just the stupidest fucking thing ever. But it's like, yeah, it's like essentially, it's like if it's gonna be right, I'm supposed to have friends and Democrats. I support nothing but liberal-ended policies. Why does it feel like all the? Why, I have no fucking idea what the fucking issue is. They must have a bunch of oligarchs tied in these places, and they just don't want to cede what power they do. And they had folks on the Democratic end trying to fucking move away from hormonal access as well. They had Democrats. They had people in supposedly Democrat rungs moving to 86 hormone therapies and treatments here. I have hidradenitis suppurativa, a chronically painful skin condition where I get sores on me, right? On my skin. And I can't do anything to stop them if it does happen. Without finasteride, a dihydrotestosterone inhibitor. Okay? And they were specifically trying to not give me the finasteride when I first moved here, after it was prescribed to me properly in New Jersey by the best fucking specialist that was 1,000 fucking leagues above the next fucking one I would see in dermatology associates over in this. And then they're going to go ahead and give me a bunch of bullshit and anecdotal bullshit. It's just a bunch of subversive bullshit. Essentially just a website that they have a bunch of boiler room activity, and people who fall into it believe that finasteride leads them to some level of mental health deficiency or emotional deficiency, or it's ruined their libido, and I'm just like, it's all anecdotal, you fucks. What have you done to verify the nature that this was in fact due to finasteride? You're just having everybody who has symptoms after utilizing a substance claiming that all the symptoms that they might be running into have to do with finasteride. This is confirmation bias and not blind spotted well enough to consider itself as falsifiable. So yeah, my dermatology associate over here in the U of R, when I first got here in 2017 and I was coping with a periodontal cyst, had determined that my hidradenitis suppurativa was, quote, not that bad. She was not going to prescribe me the finasteride that I was looking for. And instead of prescribing me finasteride, she was going to give me instead a fucking subversive ass website trying to undermine me even taking finasteride to myself, when finasteride has been one of the only mechanisms of action I've found to control my symptoms of my HS. And I was wondering, what the fuck is this about? What the fuck is this about? And I realized they're trying to limit hormonal medication access for all mechanisms. This is primarily as it pertains to the nature of trying to remove hormone replacement therapy for transitioning individuals experiencing gender dysphoria or more euphoria in another gender. And it's also a mechanism to create more societal shame. If they can remove finasteride as a substance that helps males keep the hair on their head, they don't feel the 1984 aging removing from them their confidence in their character. They wanted more men to go bald. They wanted more folks to feel dysphoric. Dysphoria has been, in fact, something that they've generated to a great magnitude in this nation. They were purposefully outputting dysphoric feelings. Look at the pop music that it is that they spewed around 2016. You remember how desperately depressing it was? Do you remember how depressed you were in 2016 when you were listening to it? So they leverage dysphoria. You must understand, right? I haven't gone into like direct evidence in regards to like, what the hell are you talking about? It's just like, no, for people in my generation, they know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. It was all music designed to be like the most depressing thing ever. And it was coming through the rap ends back before when it was about solidarity, power, right? Coming up, talking yourself up. Now it's about feeling bad. And trials and tribulations. A bit more, right? Not that it's bad art. It's just, it was a huge portion. And, like, essentially the rates for depressing content in the pop music sphere, right, had at least tripled. And so they'll use the happy-go-lucky poppy music to make a certain demographic happier and feeling more confident, and then they'll use sadder, more depressing lyrics and content that they know is aimed towards specific per capita audiences that they want to depress and they want to push further away from being able to be self-sufficient. And these things do have gigantic mechanisms. And so they want a certain mood for a certain demographic for a day. They'll play these things. They'll push these things online more. These, right? They'll advertise. They'll find a way to get it out more. So now that's what a whole generation is listening to, but all the other ones wouldn't be. And that's one of the mechanisms of action that they use to subvert and make certain demographics feel dysphoric to undermine their lives. As a whole, when they were going after my right to access the dihydrogen testosterone inhibitor finasteride for my skin condition, I should have been left to wonder, why are you trying to affect my informed consent? And why are you informing me with anecdotal bullshit? You are not just hurting my informed consent rights as to my knowledge, right, that this finasteride works for me, and I have a previous representative of a much higher echelons than you who prescribed it and recommended it for me immediately. Okay? Not only are you going to be removing me from my informed consent there, now you're going to subvert me with this bullshit website where it could be real people typing it. It could be a bunch of boiler room people trying to make it just somebody confirm to themselves that all of these bad things happen if you take finasteride. And it's unfalsifiable. There's no way to prove any of that to yourself. It's just anecdotal. It's bias. It's right. So they tried to affect my informed consent and my confidence in my own informed consent as well. This is 2017 here. 14450 area. I waited 2 months for that appointment to that dermatology specialist, and that's the experience I had. They tried to make me feel ashamed for just immediately showing them where my scarring was. There's some level of impropriety that I was expressing. I'm a biological human male. Can you not cope with that? Are you not a fucking doctor? You've seen tumorous lesions output from people's arms and whatnot. You can't look at a 23, 24-year-old male's leg as it attaches to their buttocks, right? You just can't let them just go immediately show them. I just wanted to show you the physical nature of it. What the fuck would the point of it me be describing and discussing the nature of my pain in context to you? Why don't you just use your fucking eyes and see the scarification upon my body? Then they do, and they say, not that bad. I'm like, no, you're actually the worst. You're the worst I've ever seen. Again, I don't mean I've dived in on this not on replicable camera feed quite often, so I've demoralized and demonized this person enough. I'm this is fun, and 7 months ago it would have been, oh wow, November into December, wow, okay. Right, so that was when I was getting subverted by Sarah and her group over her groups in Batavia and in her closer area, the Parkland players, right down the canal a bit. But that's when this was dropped, and they were purposefully having people cackle around me in the auxiliary, trying to create a subversive environment, making it feel that any situation where I'd try to create friends in a group again would just be subverted against me, and people cackling and keeping me away from them and making me feel uncomfortable. And this is designed to make me feel more uncomfortable in society over time. And these people burn in hell for that no matter what. So essentially, after all of that, Sarah can escape. Sarah can escape. I like Sarah and her family. Hi. Hi. Um. So that's when this one was dropped. So that now I can go and refer back and then see 7 months ago and see Shrek taking a picture of himself, which is funny. A little quitter's room magic, but not quite. Just AI generated version of my basement down here, with a quitter's room reference thereafter. Meaning this guy's probably a Fran. They're Canadian. That's cool. So there's folks in Canada that know. And that's my confirmation that folks in Canada know about all this too. That's great. I'm pro Canada. And I believe I helped Canada witness for itself and realize for itself that they wanted a liberal incumbent. Or a liberal, right? You're welcome, Canada. Thanks. And you can kind of thank Trump too. There's some interesting mechanisms at play right now. Trump wasn't just pageantry for we here, the 5% of the population of the world that makes up the United States. Trump is a pageant for the entirety of the world over, specifically to NATO. And then potentially a mechanism for we to make additional allies and partnerships over the course in the future of the United States of America. On top of that is it is a pretty solid mechanism of like, right, we don't want these folks developing nukes and not having ties to us. That's the thing. So it really is a mechanism. I think a lot of people were really hearing me on what Nixon did so correctly. And I know Nixon was also ostracized and essentially self-defamed and made to be paranoid via the very real MK Ultra paradigm that he was made aware of because he's the president of the United States going in after LBJ and after Truman establishes the CIA to begin MK Ultra testing by the 60s. Or at least more drugs of possessive potential. And essentially is it that like the only reason we didn't hit World War III with a big, huge, forever war conflict with China, and he really did see this, is that we needed to create better trade, and we needed to get more friends over in China that wasn't necessarily the sovereignty of China and its government, but its oligarchs, and create oligarchs there and create stuff that enabled us to truly have friends across the ocean. And then better immigration policies, better stuff that enables us to like adoption, right? Folks of kids over there, and that's cool because it gets those genes over here in us, and then we get more assimilated to appreciating people with those genes, and it's solid. It's solid. And there's immigration. We have a lot of Chinese students over here, right? Taking on some of our very best educations, not taking it up. No, now these people go back to China and they all state that they trained up at U of R, they trained up at Harvard, they trained up at, right? Now there's prestige that follows and flows from all the way over here in the United States over, right, to China. And that's prestigiousness that they know of America, too. They say, wow, Harvard. Hot damn. You got around. It's like, man, it was great. And so it's an assimilation practice. It's good handshaking. It's people out there in these political environments trying to demonize China, trying to demonize. I mean, Russia's easier to demonize since the war in Ukraine. But I always make very clear and avidly clear, potently clear, that any amount of demonization that Russia self-enables is really just the amount of self-demonization it's the only pathway forward for them to have stayed a serious power after NATO specifically undermining them and eliminating their access of like the G6 and we don't let them into the Security Council and the UN. We're constantly undermining what their economy can do. We want to ruin their economy. We want to ruin communism. We just ruin it. No, it's not. We can't have the power in it. We know the logic. We know the math behind how it is to control people under a capitalist system. No. You communists over there are doing something that's absolutely just disenfranchise. It's going to remove oligarchs. It's going to remove oligarchs. And so NATO and all of its oligarchs and its corruption determined that they were going to start undermining the self-sufficient communist economies. And they would do everything they can to undermine them, forcing these communist economies and governments to grow more and more corrupt over time because there's not enough abundance in the nation to support people because we're purposefully limiting them with artificial scarcity, not doing trade with them. So how do we get out of this issue with China? We made trade rules, we made trade agreements with them thanks to Nixon. How do you make things worse on purpose? They ask. I don't really want to have an alliance with China anymore, they go. I think that I'd rather succumb the United States of America into feudalism. And so what they determined to do is that they stop chip trading. They start creating a narrative that China's evil. And this is after we get fucking made by Edward Snowden, right? Found to be very heavily, very, very, very heavily surveilling Chinese citizens and Chinese nationals. That is not any kind of thing that fosters trust, you stupid fucking pieces of troglodytic shit. So, no wonder the sovereignty of China, it gets a little bit more, cards a little closer to the chest and shit, right? Kind of like really, really, really subverted the amount of trust that we were building between us. Now I have to be over here and figure out a mechanism of regenerating this trust between way, and then also maintaining that there will never be a surveillance paradigm of this nature or echelons again. They push it over on China at the same rate they push it on us. I think we all have something to kind of get up in arms about together here, don't we? Either way, it forces China over into the surveillance state that they're in then, because now they don't know how many operatives we have over there. And theirs is automated with social credit, and so they're going in even deeper with the shit that we would eventually potentially start seeing over here, and they wouldn't have been moving in that deep if we didn't spook their asses in 2010. But we weren't just spooking their asses in 2010, we were spooking their asses all the time through. Doing joint operations with them, putting fucking nuclear generators into Afghanistan. I'm sorry, not nuclear generators, we're putting hydroelectric generators in Afghanistan. And we're probably just doing more surveillance on them then. Oh, you mean that thing that we were doing together to stabilize Afghanistan with our engineering and your protection and and Russia's airlifting and NATO's additional support and like joint forces and everything? You mean all that stuff that we did wasn't actually us learning to work together? That was you guys just trying to find additional mechanisms to surveil and spy on us? We failed to historicize properly what Snowden made available to we, right? And how he is, and they are, sorry, an American hero. Even my first black president, Obama, could not seemingly protect Snowden on this. And of course, he's the head of state. We should not have been so immediate about it. Yes, I know we got to make an example over these circumstances, make our military folks very afraid. I know. But this looks like shit, and it looks like the same shit that we made said was treasonous in 75, and yet we keep inching it in then in 78, then again in 81, then again in 2001, then again in 04, then again in 08. Now you got this big, huge fucking problem where there's an AI-generated fucking image, guys, of my basement. There's an AI-generated fucking image of my basement, y'all, on this random fucking thumbnail here by a Canadian citizen. That's how much you fucked up! So, I'm gonna stop screaming now. I'm just stating, you're so fucked. So I'm gonna go, sorry. I don't know if this is still doing work up there, my bad. Woo! Woo! But yep. This is how much they fucked up. And I suppose that this is more protection and optics over everything. We just kind of keep releasing how much they've been watched and surveilled themselves so far, right? We just keep doing it more and more and more. It's wonderful. I myself am still, it's beautiful. I find myself legitimately being like innocent as fuck. And it's like so awesome because like that's why like God found me and stuff and like all this cool shit. Right? It's really cool, but it's like if I unclench my butt cheeks, I can't do it too much. I have to keep watching the news and stuff, and that's essentially going to corroborate me into being the president of the United States eventually. I was calling myself the 48th. Maybe 52nd. I like the idea of being the 48th. I'll be the 48th and the 52nd. Secret 48th, full on 52nd. We'll see. Hey, two caps. Two caps says, you don't know what you're doing about this. Two caps tells me this. Hey, when are we going to start using caps? I don't know. This is fun. All right, bye.